Strap yourself in
because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
On YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like.
Right, Chris.
All right there, how the devil are we all? Welcome along. Missing it yet? Yes. I have tried to amuse myself. There has been football on, the Nations League, that's been on, and I thought I'll watch the game, Wales versus who did they play? Was it San Marino? Some Poland, that was it. Wales versus Poland. I'll tell you what, it was like watching a horror movie. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Welcome along. It is what night is it? Friday night, and it's the first in a new series of the Friday debate show. So this is where we debate things. We don't argue, we don't chat, we don't banter. We simply just debate or try and have a sensible debate. Yeah, that's not going to happen, is it? This is Leicester Till I Die TV. This is where you can watch and listen to us.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Yeah, if you are watching on YouTube, please do press that subscribe button. It does help us grow the channel. So tonight's show, I've got 3 fans with me, and at least I'll be cool. See what I did there? And we are going to be looking at how disappointing the Premier League teams' seasons were. I mean, depending on what they were expecting, the size of the club, etc. And I'll bring my guests in one at a time, and we'll start with ladies first, because I like to think of myself as a gentleman. Nobody else does, but I like to think of myself as a gentleman. You'll recognise it from our normal Monday night season shows with the league review. Lou, how the devil are you? Are you missing it?
Yes. I've had a really stressful day because I had a leak in my living room, but it's finished and sorted now. So, yeah.
That's right.
Apart from that, I'm doing all right.
That would kind of put I'd say, dampener on your day, wouldn't it? No pun intended. Yeah. But it's all sorted. You're all dry.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Thanks for joining us. We'll get James in now. James, for those of you that know, and you see him on a lot of shows, but he's always in the chat. This is the first time that you will have seen him alive, if you like. You know that he is real. James, you're an Everton fan. I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say about this. Welcome along, sir.
Evening, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, got plenty to say, but not in a good way.
I'm sure you've not. And this is why I'm doing this show at 9 o'clock. I tell you what, if it's not just bad, and thanks very much for coming on, having a Scouser on that we're going to struggle to understand. We've got a Welshman on that we're going to need.
Worse than it.
Subtitles are available for those that are watching. Sign language. in the background.
Well, you need an interpreter, won't you?
I can't do a sheep song language, so we'll just leave that. But
no, I don't think you should do a sheep.
I'm trying to get on as many shows as possible to try and take my mind off Sunday. So thanks for having me on, Chris, to debate the Premier League. The Premier League season.
Yes.
It's not been a good one, is it, really?
Well, this is the thing. It's been such a funny season. And obviously, Sunday, Mike is referring to Wales versus Ukraine. I don't know. In a way, I know I said before we were all chatting that what a shame it was for Scotland, and it was. But, that's in a sarcastic way, of course. But it would have been nice to see a couple of British teams slog it out to get to the World Cup. And Louise, I mean, as English fans, we can just sit there and go... We'll wait to see who's coming to join us.
We can, but we also know what happens when we actually get to the tournament. So I don't think we
don't mention that.
Yeah. Although the last tournament went okay till the end, didn't it? So
this is it. This is it. Yeah. I think we should cover that with the tournaments under Roy Hodgson.
Yeah.
They were bad tournaments. Just to go around, you start with you, Louis. I mean, taking the season as a whole, it was one of the weirdest seasons I can remember. I was expecting it to get back to normal because we'd had obviously the 2 COVID seasons.
Yeah.
But my God, I mean, predictions, we were way off the mark with most of them. It was just such an odd season.
Yeah. Again, it is difficult because that's what we want. But at the same time, we don't want it when it's your team.
Yes.
When it's your team getting that dodgy result, it's horrible. When it's someone else's, you say that, well, that's what makes the Premier League.
Yeah.
And it is. And that's why we love it. And that's why it, in my opinion, is the best league in the world, because the top can beat, the bottom rather can beat the top.
Yeah.
And the middle changes around all the time. I mean, look at West Ham this season. I don't think anyone outside of West Ham actually thought that was going to happen. So, yeah, it's been a weird one, but it's what makes it interesting. If the top teams were winning all the time, it would be very, very boring.
Definitely is. And James, I mean, I think because it's been such a weird season, I mean, you're obviously an Everton fan. Well, not obviously, but you are an Everton fan. but we all have our cross to bear, I guess. But no, all joking aside, the fact that it has been such a weird season meant that as bad a season, and obviously we'll come on to Everton later, but as bad a season as you were having, you never lost touch.
It has been a bizarre season, it has. But I always separate the league in 4 or 5 different sections. As you take away the top 2, then you've got Chelsea, the third best team. And then you've got Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United, West Ham, and even Leicester. In the maybe Wolves slightly in the gap, the group that competing for Europe, and then the rest, it's all bang average, rubbish. It's just, I mean, I'm not being funny, but the league the last few years, I mean, nothing against City and Liverpool, them 2 sides are fantastic, but the league hasn't been that great. If I'm going to be brutally honest, it's not been the quality. I mean, the quality is improving in terms of the caliber of players coming in. It's slightly, but it's just a poor league. I mean, people would say about the French league and Scottish league being a farmers league. Well, some people can say that with here as well, but it is what it is.
It is a worry that you've got 2 teams that over the past few seasons but I think it's only the last few, because I mean, Chelsea at one point were in the mix every season, and they've won quite a few. But I mean, Chris Welsh, good evening to you. Yeah, Manchester United, and Everton in the same stream. This could get interesting. Mike, as a Man United fan, I mean, and again, like I say, we'll come to the individual teams, but could you have ever thought that as badly as you played, that you would still end up in a European position?
Well, it's just funny how this Arsenal's best ever season and we're in the same competition as them. So, Arsenal fans still think that they're untouchable. But no, the season, it was an absolute shambles. And to be honest, I was on the final day more worried about whether we were going to be in the Europa League or the Conference League, because I think the Conference League, I'm not disregarding the Conference League. I'm just saying.
Be careful here. Be careful.
No, I will make a point on it. I'll say the only reason I didn't want to be in the Conference League is if you win that, you're in the Europa League. Where if you win the Europa League, you get direct spot to the Champions League. So I thought that may have been our only hope of actually getting into the top 4 next season, or to get Champions League football. Sorry. So I thought, right, take the Europa League. It gives Ten Hag something to build on by hopefully winning that and getting into the Champions League that way, whilst also building in the league. But like you said, how we managed to get any sort of European footballers, I don't know. I think I'll tell you the reason why. The two footballers, one's called David De Gea and the other one's called Cristiano Ronaldo. That's the only reason we've got into that Europe, basically.
Yeah. I'm surprised that he's not, he didn't finish the season with a bad back, old Cristiano Ronaldo, who's carrying Man United that much.
He didn't even get player of the season, to be fair. It was actually De Gea that got it, so...
Yeah, fair point. But, I mean, I for me, and I'm not usually a betting man, because I'm usually sort of so way off the mark with everything, but I might just have a 5 on Man United actually not qualifying out of the Europa League and actually ending up in the Conference League. I would find that really funny.
Yeah, generally, I would not watch that.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it, as Kevin Keegan once said. Let's have a look at the teams and let's go through. Some of them have had good seasons. And obviously disappointing. I've not gone for the worst season here, because I think if you're going for the worst season, you're going to be looking up at the obvious relegated sides. But disappointing from what was the fans' predictions of how they will finish, because I spoke to all the fans before the start of the season, got where they thought their team would end. So it was good to compare it to that, but where they finished last season and what they were expecting. So you could even say Man City could have had a disappointing season. But let's start with Arsenal. Start with the A's, shall we? They finished in 5th and Europa League. It was up on last season when they finished 8th. The fan predicted 7th to 10th, so they've actually done better than they thought they would do. Whatever happens, Lou, they're still going to want Arteta out, aren't they?
This week, maybe, yeah. And then when they start winning, they'll want him to stay. I think the thing with Arsenal is they're making progress under Arteta, and that's something that you've got to look at, because if they get rid of him, who's going to come and manage Arsenal? Let's face it, Arteta only came because he's an ex-Arsenal player and he obviously has affinity with the team, because who would have wanted that when he came? And, the Europa League is disappointing because they were in that box seat for 4th, and I get that. But at the same time, at the beginning of the season, they would have took 5th. 1,000% the Arsenal fans would have took 5th. And like I say, there is progression there. And, they didn't lose it by much. They're a really young side with a lot of talented players that are only going to get better. Arsenal's problem will be keeping those players, because there's some that will eventually probably go to the clubs above them. So, I think it's
already come, hasn't it? It was already gone.
Yeah, and, you can see more. And that was a total, off the field situation, wasn't it? But
well, yeah.
So,
but James, I mean, I at one point thought that Arsenal were going to get 4th. I mean, Chris said there that they bottled 4th, and I don't know that I'm a supporter of that phrase, because I mean everybody said that Leicester bottled 4th the last 2 seasons, and the argument could be on the other side. Of course, they did well to get 5th because they'd been 8th, like I said, the season before, but they did kind of blow it. It was in their own hands up until the last few games, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, the last couple of months, they were pretty much nailed on for top 4. It was always them and Spurs in a kind of way, but Arsenal just seems to pick up a few more points along the way. But they've done better than I thought they would, because I had them in 7th originally. And I know, because I've got to get on with a lot of Arsenal fans in the chat, and most of them are Arteta house. But
they won't be next week, James.
Probably not. But I look at the squad. It's not good enough for the Champions League. It's just not. I mean, you've got a couple of good young players in there, like Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli. They've got a good bunch of kids, But like Lou said, at some point, if Arsenal don't get in the Champions League again, then they're gonna get one out. The bigger clubs will be coming in with pots of cash, and they want to be playing in the Champions League. And half the other players Arsenal have got, I mean, Xhaka, El Neni, and all that. They're all right players, but they're not. To where Arsenal want to go, they're not the answer. And I think losing Lacazette today is not really a blow because he's what was he 30 now? What more could he do? So
he didn't have a good season all round, did he? Really?
No. And as for Arteta, I mean, I think it was too. In my opinion, when he took the job, I thought it was too soon. But you don't. The thing is, if I got a phone call, you got a phone call, anyone else in the chat said they got a phone call and says, "Do you want to be manager of Arsenal?" He's not going to turn it down, is he?
No.
So you don't blame him for taking the job. It's just they don't matter when I
We'll become more clubs later on, and we'll see
He
about
shouldn't
the
have been offered
Watford
the job. It's like Frank shouldn't have been offered the job. Ollie shouldn't have been offered the job. They should never have been offered those jobs. With where the clubs want to go.
No, definitely.
So if they didn't have the affinity with the club, they never would have got the job. So
you're not going to turn it down because you don't know if you'll ever get offered that chance again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look, and I'll just give you a quick example. Moyes at United. When Moyes left us to go to Man United, and then obviously it didn't work out, you're thinking Moyes will never get that opportunity again. And he's doing all right at West Ham at the minute. So
yeah.
It's just wait and see in it for Arsenal.
Yeah. Mike, I mean, we laugh about the Arsenal fans and Arteta out or in, shaking it all about. But he had a big job on his hands because when he came in, a bit like Moyes when he went to Man United, he's got a massive, and Ten Hag now, he had a massive job on his hands to rebuild the club. As Chris Welsh said there, there's a lot of troublemakers he had to get rid of, he wanted to get rid of. And I don't think, it's all right if you keep, on top of a team as you go season to season. But if you don't, the job can literally be massive and take years.
Yeah, I'm actually going to play devil's advocate. I think it's been an overachievement for Arsenal this season. When you talk about moments they've had in this season, obviously you had to get rid of, Ozil before this season. You had to get rid of Aubameyang. You had players that just couldn't be bothered. He's had a lot of injuries this season. I know. I don't like to bring that up, but the team has been so unsettled at times. You've got the fans, because the fans are going to get into the players' heads when they're constantly singing Arteta out and stuff, or constantly screaming and shouting after every game, of course, because like James and Lou and everyone says, their squad is young, so don't be fooled. They do look on social media, Smith Rowe, Saka, Martinelli, they're going to be on like social media seeing what the fans are saying. If they're constantly pelting the players, then that's going to take a massive confidence drop on those players because they are such a young side and they've not got any real sort of person to put their sort of hand round the shoulder and say, look, you're going to get this, because most of the squad is inexperienced in itself. So to manage to get fifth and, to be honest, nearly get top four with that squad, that is
you look at Arsenal's inconsistency during the season. I mean, the last two of the last 5 games. I mean, all right, it wasn't helpful that Tottenham beat them 3-0. The biggest rivals and rivals for the 4th place beat them. But then they went and lost 2-0 to Newcastle, and that was kind of their season throughout. And I think, like you say, Tottenham would have probably been better had they got Conte in at the start, but obviously we'll come on to that. But I think overall, Arsenal, I don't think should be disappointed with that season.
100% not. Like I said, I think it's an overachievement to get that. Well, they beat Newcastle on that Monday night and they've got top 4. Simple as that. So and like you said, Chris, I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans this year and listen to like the media talk about Arsenal. They're bigging this Arsenal squad up, and rightfully so. Like Lou said, Arteta is building something, and I know obviously you're going to get those, people. Not gonna put the superlative to define them, but you're going to get those people that will say Arteta out after a loss, and then maybe he's building something. After a win, I generally think there is something boiling for Arsenal. He's got 8th, 5th. There is progression there, and you see the players that they're linked to now. Some decent caliber players, and what he's got to do is he's got to get hungry players, not big egos. And I think that's the same for Mike, which we'll talk about later on. It's got to be the right mix. There needs to be some experienced players in that team, though, but you can't just keep Lacazette. I think getting rid of him was perfect.
It is certainly a team in transition, and they are progressing season after season. So but I don't think they've had a disappointing season. Now you could say, Lou, that this team has had a disappointing season, or have they? I mean, their fan predicted 5th to 6th. They finished 11th last season. They have got all the money from Grealish going for them to spend. And obviously, they then ended up sacking the manager, Dean Smith, and bringing in, what looks like going to be a great decision with Steven Gerrard and the players he's attracting. I mean, if I was a Villa fan, I'd be a little bit disappointed with that.
I think 5th or 6th is way too high.
Yeah,
I don't think. Do you know what I mean? I think that's way too high.
See them when I saw that.
But I do think 14th is probably a little low. I don't think it's a disappointing season. It's not. It's really difficult because obviously they are behind where they were last season. But Gerrard has only just took over. Like you say, he's not even had a full season yet. And look what he's getting out of the team already. I don't think they need to worry. But obviously, they want European football. That's the problem. Every team, well, probably the bottom 5 or 6, want European football. They can't all get it. So some fans are going to be disappointed. I don't think Aston Villa should be too disappointed. I can see why the little hint is because they have took positionally, obviously, steps back. But I don't think they should be overly disappointed.
No. I mean, James, it was a bit of a masterstroke in some ways getting Gerrard in. He'd done a bit of, I don't know, is it, you've got that Scottish affiliation, and I always feel bad. I don't feel bad at saying this, but we know what the Spanish Premier League is like, and he was at Rangers. But you could say that eased him into the management, I suppose. But it's the names he's attracting. I mean, Coutinho turned up. Suarez might be coming back. It's going to look good for them. They've got good owners, but should they have expected more this season?
With the money they spent, you thought they would have done a lot better because back in the summer, I mean, they bring players like Leon Bailey, for example. I mean, he was on with numerous clubs at the time, and obviously he's had a bit of an injury-hit season. But losing Grealish was obviously going to be a bit of a factor, but it was the case of everyone was saying, could Villa without him, couldn't he? I'd say it's more of I can understand it's slightly disappointing, I'd say, but I'd say it's more of a transitional period for Villa because, I mean, this is going to be Gerrard's first summer window and he needs time. I'd say time, but managers these days don't get time anymore. So, but I think patience just got to be there.
Yes.
I mean, Villa, for a club of their size, obviously long term, they should be aiming for Europe. But at the minute, they're just slightly behind, I'd say. But I think if I'm a Villa fan, I would be slightly excited.
No, but it makes it exciting, doesn't it? That suddenly there are all these clubs that think they can get into Europe, and it does make the whole league more exciting.
Oh, it does, yeah. Look at Newcastle. I mean, the money they've got now. I mean, they're starting to look up now, and then West Ham have been in Europe a few times. They're looking on the up as well. So it's going to be interesting how the summer pans out for them. Yeah,
I mean, Mike, you can never say that any club is a one man club. Man United are close to it, let's be honest, with Ronaldo. Like you said earlier, him and the guy sort of carried the club. Grealish, I mean, once he kind of was injured and out, that's when they started to struggle.
I actually lean the other way. I think getting rid of Grealish may turn out to be actually the right thing for Villa, because now it's not give the ball to Grealish. It's right, we've got Coutinho on the pitch, we've got Buendia on the pitch, we've got McGinn on the pitch, we've got different avenues of attack where when Grealish was there, it was like, right, give it to Jack, see what he can do. Now the team is, I think they're a much better team now without Grealish. They've got some very good players like James said, Leon Bailey. He has had an awful season, obviously with injuries. He will come firing next season. They've brought in Kamara from Marseille. They've brought in Diego Carlos from Sevilla. They're linked to Luis Suarez. They're linked to Tarkowski potentially as well from Burnley. So there's a lot of excitement around Aston Villa at the moment. And just to reinverse what everyone said, 5th to 6th as a fan prediction was very out there. I wouldn't have predicted them at the start of the season. I did say Villa will end 10th to 12th, something like that. But Gerrard coming in, people keep saying, Gerrard, they fell off since Gerrard's come in and all this rubbish, but he's building something. And like Chris said, the names he has pulled into this football club is, well, they're a former European Cup winner, aren't they? And they want to get back there. So I think this is going in the right direction. Not a disappointing season. I can see why people may think it. Like Lou said, they have dropped 3 places in the table, which you can obviously say, well, hang on, last season they were 11th, now they're 14th. But half of it was Dean Smith, the other half was Gerrard. Coutinho came in January, completely changed the team. So many factors, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's been disappointing from Villa.
I think that one, if Arsenal was sort of overachieving, if you like, I think we can say Villa was probably around what we would have expected them to do. Yeah. Now, one of my favourite, the 3 teams obviously come up every season, and we always expect 2 of them to go straight back down, especially if they're Watford and Norwich. But this is a sort of club, Lou, that I love to see coming up, and I would have so loved it to have been Luton this time. There are these clubs that have never sort of been there, and they come up and they have a go, and it's great when they stay up. But I think Brentford, they had their early burst when nobody was really used to them, and they went up. Their fan prediction was the fact that just keep us up, please. But they were far from ever. They were never in any trouble of going down. They did have a bit of a sort of
wobble.
Wobble. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. But they started then. They played a lot of teams around them, and they sort of were beating them, and that was the difference. And they were never in trouble, were they? For me, again, this is an overachievement.
Oh, this is a massive overachievement. When they came up, it's really difficult because you don't want to be, when I'm talking about teams that come up, I don't want to be negative. You kind of can't help it sometimes because, like you say, 2 out of 3 usually go down, and they usually go down easily. Like there's 1 or 2 that go down easily. In this case, obviously, it was Watford and Norwich. But I love the way they play. I love the manager. I love the way he talks. He's very honest about what's going on. It's like, it's not just, we're happy to be here. We can compete. We will compete. And we will use everything we have to be able to compete. And yeah, we don't have the money. We don't have the fan base. But you know what? We can still stay in the Premier League. Second season syndrome is a thing. And I think it will hit them. I do think they'll struggle a lot more next season. But I still think they'll stay up next season. I don't think they'll go down, but it will be harder because, as I say, second season syndrome, it is a thing. There's so many clubs have had it. So we'll see on that. But yeah, definitely can't be disappointed at all about this season.
Just remind me, Lou, did we suffer with second season syndrome at all? No. As soon as you mentioned it, I just thought I'd remind myself,
We are the exception that proves the rule, though, Chris, aren't we?
Exactly. Our second season, they're memories. James, when you look at an experienced Premier League club like Burnley, and let's be honest with you, they'd been up sort of for 7 odd years. I know they'd gone down, but they came straight back up. Only managed to win 7 games. Brentford finished the season on 13 games, having won, and 11 points ahead of them. It was beyond their wildest dreams from the first game when they beat Arsenal.
Oh, absolutely. Like Lou said, every Brentford fan would have been snapped your hand off for the season they've had. I'm a bit similar when it comes to new teams coming to the league, like a Brentford or Blackpool or Huddersfield at the time. It's just more refreshing. Just gives the league more of a refreshing sight. And I like, especially what Lou said, the way they go at teams, the way they just approach games. Like, we can compete with these. We're not here. We're not like trying to be like little old Brentford. Yeah, we may not have the finances. Yeah, we may not have the huge squad. But let's give everyone a go. Let's give it a go. Bring them on. And that's the mentality you want to hear from other teams.
And Erickson was a great addition, wasn't he?
Oh, Christian Eric. I mean, most clubs, even my club, I would have had him in a heartbeat. But Brentford, I mean, the fact they got him for free and the goals he got to help them along the way, you can't go wrong. It's whether they can get hold of him again. It's another thing.
I mean, it's funny because there are a lot of clubs, and Leicester included in the rumours, and it's obviously all rumours because it's the silly season. But clubs that weren't interested in him at the start suddenly are, and I'd love him to turn around, even though he could be turning down my club. But I'd love him to turn around and go, no, do you know what? He didn't want me before. I'm going to stop at Brentford.
If he stays there, fair play.
Yeah.
I mean, and it shows that Brentford ambitious. Why? It's showing some ambition. It's like what Lou said. That dreaded second season syndrome. That's the worry for any promoted club. So, and that's what I mean. I know it's another conversation, but if Forest stay up, say for this upcoming season, then I know you're not keen on that, Chris, but you know what I mean. The second season, you just don't know. It's going to be hard. It will be hard for them next season, but I think they've just got enough to be fine again.
Yeah. James, we're going to call you then, Mike. Chris Welsh makes an excellent point here. And for me, I don't think that you should get manager of the season just because your club's won the Premier League.
Klopp didn't, and he still won it.
Yeah, well, all right. Top horse. You know what I'm the point I'm getting at here. The point I'm getting at. Someone like Thomas Frank comes up. Was his job? Has he not done a better job than Pep or Jurgen? I mean, to do what he's done with the resources he's got, to my mind, I've got to totally agree with Chris Welsh that he did probably deserve manager of the season.
Yeah, I'm not too fussed on Thomas Frank as a person, but I will agree that the job that he's done at Brentford, surpassing any expectations. Look, I done a prediction at the start of the season, got absolutely pretty much everything wrong, but I predicted Brentford to finish 13th. And the reason why I predicted them to finish 13th is the way that they play football, the way they are a football club. They use like the scouting networks, the way that they use their obviously their transfer sign everyone from like Scandinavia and stuff like that with their FC Midtjylland links from Denmark. It's a great club. It's a fantastic club. And I know obviously Lou and James and you yourself, Chris, have sort of hinted at potential second season syndrome. I don't think it'll be that because they haven't finished as high. When Leeds finished high, Sheffield United both finished high. Brentford have just been stable. If they would have finished in the top 10, it's like, can we maintain that when all they have to maintain now is between 12th and 15th in that area where there's not going to be much expectation. And plus you've got obviously Bournemouth, Fulham and Forest coming into the league now. So there's potentially 3 teams that are worse off than them, plus Leeds as well. Maybe Everton, James, I'm sorry to say, unless something drastic changes at Everton. So there's still teams that Brentford will look on and say, well, we beat them last season. Why can't we go and do it again? Christian Erickson, if you're going to say for a signing of the season, I know he came in at midway point, but signing of the season, Christian Erickson, they had that unbelievable peak at the start. They dropped around November, December, and then it literally was, we bring Erickson straight back up again. And it was just the breath of fresh air that Christian Erickson gave to that Brentford side, the Brentford squad. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere. The Denmark link that club has, he's well loved there.
Yeah.
I think he'll stay.
I think we all agree that they really did overachieve, and I think again all of us would have said if the three that came up, the one that was going to do better and stay up. I know I did, and I think probably everybody did. Out the three was going to be Brentford. Welcome along to Doug, and welcome along to Anthony. How the devil are you both? Hope you are well. Yes, Doug. You see, James has got a face. Nobody knew whether he was a real or whether he was made up, or but he's real. He's not made up, and he's here tonight. Next one, and in a way, although I did ask him on, Brad is actually down in Brighton at the moment, and we know they are his second team, but without that Brighton biased. I think Brighton have done all right this season, Lou. You know, they did have a little dip start of the new year when they were bottom of the what's what I'm looking for? Bottom of the form league. Yeah. But they turned it round, and you know, they've not had their annual battle with relegation.
No, again, that's why I don't think Brighton fans are going to be disappointed. This season, I think they've done incredibly well. And yeah, they had a good start, then they had the bump, but they did bounce back from that bump. And most teams in the Premier League, if you take out the top 3 or 4, have that. In a season, you're not going to be on top form for the whole season. Brighton weren't, but they were good enough to get the position that they deserved. You know, I truly believe that the table doesn't lie. You know, so I don't think they would have expected it. And looking at the fan prediction, 16th to 17th, then again, they've got to be happy. I don't think there's any disappointment from the Brighton fans that, you know, they had that dip. I mean, if they hadn't done, they could quite easily be in Europe, but that wasn't expected, obviously, at the beginning of the season. So no. I don't think they could.
No.
You know, they could be worried too much.
No, exactly. James, I wasn't a Harry Potter fan. That is the first one all season. I've managed to avoid making that slip up. I am quite a Harry Potter fan. I quite like it. My kids grew up with it, so I do as well. But talking about his brother Graham Potter, I never kind of jumped onto he's wonderful sort of bandwagon.
As I was saying, I don't think there's any disappointment from the Brighton fans at all.
No. But I just say, I just didn't buy into this. You know, if anybody said, "Oh, we want to get rid of our manager, let's have Graham Potter. He's going to be an England manager," and I'm saying, like, just prove something to me first. And in fairness, I think he has this season because he's got them well above, punching well above the weight. And when they did start to drop down the table, he managed to claw them back up again. And only on the last day, just finished behind Leicester.
Yeah, they've done far better than any of us expected them to. I mean, he's a decent manager, Potter, but like you say, you got to ask the question: Can he prove us all wrong? Can he? I mean, like we said, he had the bump of up and down results, but then he just clawed it back and managed to finish 9th, which is fantastic. If you said to Brighton fans at the start of the season, you would have gone, "Here, 9th place for you this season." They would have bitten your hand off. Yeah. But I think with Graham Potter, I mean, they play some really good football, but my biggest problem with Brighton is at times they create like 20, 30 chances, but they don't take them half the time. And I think they need, in the summer, they really need to go and get a top, I'd say a top striker, but someone who can get them at least 15 goals a season. Because I think Mopé's a decent forward, but I just don't think he's quite that level yet.
No. I mean, Mike, that has got to be his priority, hasn't it? Because, you would look at that, as James said there, if he gets a striker in, then really you could be looking at them being sort of outside chances for Europe next season.
Yeah. I actually went to a Brighton game this season in the Carabao Cup against Cardiff, and I was speaking to a few Brighton fans, and they were saying that if you put a competent 15, 20 goal a season striker in our team, we'll finish in the top 7. And I laughed at them thinking, you're having a laugh. And then after this season and sort of touching on James's point that they create 20 to 30 chances a game, and out of those 20 to 30, 5 or 6 are clear cut. If you get someone who can take 3 or 4 of those clear cut chances every game, you're gonna finish well in the league. We see it with Man City. Obviously, they do it a different way with no strikers. But you see the successful teams in the league. If you give your main attackers 4 to 5 clear cut chances a game, they'll score 60 to 75% of them. So it is one of them where they have overachieved. I didn't have them down as relegation. I think I put them like 15th, 14th, something like that. So I did think they were going to stay up, but to go as high as they have, and obviously they done in big games. Obviously, unbeaten against Chelsea this season, beat Man United 4-0, and stuff like that. So they have overachieved, but I generally think if they address the striker position in that team, that they've got a very, very good chance of Europe. And Graham Potter is an absolute messiah, by the way. He's an unbelievable manager, tactician. He gets everything right. I genuinely think he is the next man to get the big move, I think, or a step up from Brighton. But he may want to stay with Brighton because it's an ambitious sort of road, isn't it, really, with the players they've got?
I think you've got to look at that carefully because, like Chris said there, we get into this hype about English managers. You can see, I can almost see it starting with Steve Cooper, Lou, at Notts Forest. They built up and built up and built up, and they have one good season. And you could kind of maybe make the argument with, I know he's not English, but as a British manager, with Brendan, but it's the media, isn't it? They like to build people up, give them one good season, and then drop them right back down again.
I think the difference between Cooper and Rodgers is Rodgers has got 2 Premier League 5th places and nearly won the league with Liverpool. So I think there's a major difference between the two. But yes, the principle is the same.
Yeah. And Anthony's just said here, thanks, Chris. Just seen the Anthony Kamara video. Lol, what a great stream. What he's referring to is, if you haven't seen it yet, it is just loaded. It's in the latest shows section or the fun zone on Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube. And we did the final game of the season. There we go. And I have a section. It's a funny old game. When you need I'm always bursting into song here to the Ghostbusters theme. But when you need a star for your soccer show, who are you going to go? Who are you going to call? Chris Kamara, except we couldn't afford him. So we got Anthony Kamara. Do have a look at that video. I tell you what, he's a cheaper version, but he's just as funny. So if you get a chance, it's only about 6-7 minutes long. It's just a compilation of his best bits from that show. Anthony, you were a star. It was a great laugh, great show. Thanks very much for coming on. Next up, and I think Dan's out getting drunk tonight, and I don't blame him, Burnley. Again, I would not class this as a disappointing season because I don't think anybody expected them to do any better than this, Lou. It's 16th to 17th, he predicted. Last season, it was 17th. Sacked the manager with about 8-9 games to go, which was either going to be the most brilliant decision ever made or a gamble. It didn't come off, but at one point, it looked like it did. So I don't think I couldn't call this disappointing because they pretty much did, I think, what people expected of them.
Yeah, I think the Burnley fans will be disappointed because there was points where it was in their hands to stay up. So I think that's the disappointment.
Yeah.
Would they have thought, well, obviously they didn't think it was going to be much better before the season started. But yeah, going down obviously is always disappointing, but that's the curse of being a Burnley fan. It's not the first time it's happened to them, is it? They've been up and down like a yo-yo. So hopefully they will come back and give it another go and actually stay in the division. But I like Burnley. I've got nothing against Burnley, but it's just not worked out for them. And the change of manager, I thought at the time was weird. Not so much changing the manager, but the timing of it, I thought was weird. Like you said, with 9 games to go, why not just wait till the end of the season and see what happens? And who knows whether they would have stayed up with Dash or not. I mean, you can never say, but...
No. No, totally. And James, I mean, like I say, it was almost what was expected of them. So that's why I'm not sort of, I don't think it's a disappointment. It was a gamble when they replaced the manager. It nearly came off, but it wasn't to be. That final day was like unbelievable. But it wasn't the final day that cost them. It was the form the whole season. They won a couple. Then, because I remember they won a couple. Then they came to Leicester and we beat them, and that was their problem. Every time they got a little bit of momentum going, they lost it.
Yeah, I mean, most of us predicted where Burnley were going to end up anyway. I mean, first of all, just like I said, I feel sorry for their man, for Dan, obviously going there, because obviously we've been relegation rivals this season. But
yeah.
Burnley, I think the sacking of Dyche was the time, like Luke said, the timing of it was very bizarre indeed. We would have understood it if it was at the end of the season, whether they stayed up or not. But I think just the timing of it was a bit bizarre. But they almost did it. And the weirdly thing enough, the fella who was the caretaker boss, Mike Jackson, I'm going back. This is last season. The last job he took, he was sacked by Tranmere Rovers, and they were like languishing near relegation in League Two. So, and he nearly kept them up. But I mean, they don't have bundles of cash either. Burnley, another club that just doesn't have a bundle of cash, but it's just not enough. I just don't think they've got quite enough. But I hope they come back up straight up, and whoever they get as manager, hopefully, just gives them a bounce effect.
Yeah. But do you think, James, that had they sacked Dyche, but then immediately got, say, an Allardyce or somebody like that in, that would have been more understandable, because obviously there's certain managers that you get in that, they're firefighters. And you wouldn't appoint Allardyce if you were trying to get into Europe. But you might do if you want to keep them up. It was just the fact that where they were, was this guy really, if we're honest, ever going to keep them up?
Yeah, like you say, if they had a plan of who they're going to, if they knew that they were going to get rid of Dyche, they could have had a planning, but say maybe tempted Big Sam to come in, but it just didn't happen that way, and unfortunately, Burnley just missed out on the last day of the season. So,
and would you say it was a disappointing season? I mean, yes, they've gone down, but looking at what was projected for them, it was because it was expected, wasn't it?
I'd say it was probably more expected. I didn't think they'd go down, but more like you just said, like you see on the screen there, 16th, 17th, more or less where we all thought they were going to be anyway. So, yeah, sad that they've gone down, but I wouldn't say it's major disappointments.
No. Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, it's not a disappointment by any stretch of the imagination. It's not like they were predicted to finish or, expecting to finish like 15th and they've gone down. It was 16th or 15th, 16th, 17th in that area. But one thing I will say is again, devil's advocate, I completely agree with the sacking of Sean Dyche. We've seen it at Crystal Palace, getting rid of Hodgson for Vieira, and it's completely changed the way that they play. Burnley, very much pragmatic 4-4-2 in a boring sense. Mike Jackson and Ben Mee come in, and it's like, right, lads, play with freedom. And we saw them get the best out of Cornet, McNeil, Cork, Brownhill. And it just gave the whole club a bit of a refresh. Even, I think it was Aaron Lennon, or either Aaron Lennon or someone else came out and said, we're just allowed to play now. We're not, being held for, go.
Oh, no, I get, unfortunately, I said that it wasn't a big enough bounce. We're going to move on. I think we're going to have to get a bit quicker because we're only at the fifth team and we've been on here 45 minutes. So we'll try and move on quicker and keep things a bit shorter. Chelsea, Lou, they won the Champions League last season. The fan prediction was first. They finished third. They obviously got knocked out of the Champions League, although they put up a fight. Would this have been disappointing for them? They've moved up a place.
Yeah. So my initial reaction is no, because Lukaku was never going to be the man to score the goals to win in the league, ever.
Yeah.
just never. It was never going to win the league. I think they're pretty happy with the way the season went. Obviously, they had a lot of stuff going on off the field, which I don't know whether that actually kind of got to the players or not. They're the only ones that will know that. But yeah, I think it's pretty much after Man City, Liverpool, you've got Chelsea. So I think it's pretty much where everyone expected them to be.
Yeah, James, I predicted them to win it this season. I thought they were going to go on to greater things, but again, as Lou said, it's probably third quarterfinals of the Champions League, probably about
finals as well.
Sorry,
they were in 2 finals as well, weren't they? The FA Cup
they were,
yeah, as well.
So, I mean, James, again, would you not say it's probably what was expected of them?
I think third was the right position they finished in. I mean, as I said, they're easily the third best team in the league. But like Lou said, if you're going to win a title, Lukaku's not the man to fight Chelsea to titles or anything. He's an all right striker. I mean, we had him at Everton for a few years, but he's not that like a Haaland or Lewandowski or them type of strikers who are going to win you the league or anything. So third's more or less spot on, I'd say, for Chelsea.
Yeah, they've got a big job to try and catch the top 2, haven't they? But again, I suppose if you gave them third at the start of the season, they wouldn't have bitten your hands off because the fans probably expected more. I mean, can you ever say that things off the field should affect you on the field?
Absolutely, 100%. That is always going to affect you. Players wondering what their future may be, wondering. There's some players that don't actually think about. Well, not. I wouldn't say don't think about the money, but there's some players in there that actually want to play for Chelsea Football Club. They were like, well, if this goes, tits up, we may have to. We've seen it with Barcelona having to sell like Messi or let players go because they can't fit the sort of structure for the wage, and that must have sent like an unsettlement. That horrible couple of months, whatever it was, they were dropping points. I remember them when they lost 4-1 at home to Brentford, but then it just showed how good they were. They bounced back after that by beating Southampton 6-0. So it just shows you that despite the fact Chelsea had that massive cloud over them in the ownership, they've come out of the season with a third place finish, quarterfinal of a Champions League, 2 domestic cup finals, the UEFA Super Cup and the Club World Cup. I mean, it's not bad, is it? Considering
it's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. And just saying here, Belgium, he got injured and he had to come off in tonight's game, which helped Belgium, or didn't help Belgium, helped them get thrashed.
And that's in our group as well.
And maybe, just maybe, people are getting a little bit. Not Tillemans isn't all that, and he may stay yet. We don't know.
It's not.
But the good news is for you, Mike, is that Ragnick begins Australia reign with a win. Oh, it doesn't bother you, does it? Because he's left, hasn't he? I forgot that. Sorry.
That shortly, I'm sure.
Moving on, Luke. Crystal Palace. I think not disappointing for them. I think they probably slightly overachieved, if anything.
Yeah, Vieira's done a great job there, and you talk about a refresh. That's what he's done. Hodgson is not again the manager you want if you were talking about European ambition and exciting football. Vieira seems to be, and he's done a great job. Again, it's first season. You can't ask much more than what he's done.
No. Would you agree, James?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, most of us thought they were going to struggle this season after Roy Hodgson left, and then it was such a gamble to bring Vieira in. But now he's come in, he's changed the philosophy at the club, and some of the young players they've got coming, they brought in coming through. They actually look a half decent side as well. So 12th, I think, is a very good season for them. Obviously, they want to kick on and get a bit higher. So overall, I think a good season for them, especially for Vieira.
I think At one point, they looked like they might even sort of just, again, a few teams did look like they might sneak that 7th place maybe, but it was just that inconsistency. But they'll probably grow with that next season and hopefully learn from that. But Mike's just gone off to water the plant, so we'll move on and we'll stick with you here, James, because Everton. Yes, now, well, the Everton fan predicted 7th to 10th. You had 10th last season, 16th. You were worse than that for a few weeks. It's been quite an interesting season for you, hasn't it, all round?
I'll tell you what, the final few weeks of the season wasn't good for me health at all, especially the fact I got a season ticket there. Now, it's just at the start of the season, most of us were a bit underwhelmed because Carlo Ancelotti left for Real Madrid, and to be honest, you don't blame him for going to Real Madrid. But the fact that it was the uncertainty of who's going to come in, and then suddenly Rafa Benitez was the man that they were going to bring in, and it just didn't excite the fans at all, and it was going to cause division. So it just all went completely wrong. And Frank Lampard coming in was a gamble. And to be honest, most of the fans wanted Lampard after Benitez went. But now he's come in. Somehow he's just managed to stay up. And if you want my honest opinion, it's been an absolute disgrace this season. How we've been. And for me, it's not just I don't blame it all on Benitez. For me, it's down to the board, the way we've been going.
It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
The money we spent, I'm not being funny, but I looked at it the other day, over 700 million we've wasted on ever since his owners come in. And FFP is taking its toll on. We have to sell one of our best assets if we're going to try and ease FFP. Yeah. So I'm just hoping next season if you'd offer me what would I take next season? A bottom mid-table finish and a cup run. Because it's been over 27 years since my club has not won anything. Yes. I'm 24 and I've not seen Everton win anything. So I think it's next season, just get some stability back.
And we say about owners having money, but it's all about not just having the money, it's spending it right. And again, we'll come on to Man United later, but they've bought the money, they've had the money to buy, but they necessarily haven't spent it the right way. Doug's saying there, if Lampard starts off poorly, do you think Moshiri fires him? Is he the manager that's going to make the difference?
For me, managers are irrelevant now because we've been through 5 or 6 ever since when he first came in. We had Roberto Martinez, who's now the Belgian manager. Yeah. And the fans wanted him out because of his style of football and how rubbish we were. And then you had Ronald Koeman, and don't get me started on Koeman, he was an absolute joke. And then Sam Allardyce was only a short term. And then we had Marco Silva, who just wasn't up to the job. And then they bring Carlo Ancelotti in, who we were all starstruck because we had a world-class manager. Then he goes, and then you get Benitez, and then obviously after that Lampard. So, but it's the recruitment now. I mean, and I'll tell you a funny thing, right? Last summer, and this is what sums up our club, 3 different board members had their own target for a manager. Moshiri, our owner, he wanted Benitez, who we ended up getting. Bill Kenwright, our chairman, wanted David Moyes back. And Marcel Brands, who was our former director of football now, he wanted Graham Potter. Doesn't that... It just says it all when you've got 3 different opinions on the board, but then the owners just come out and said, no, we're bringing this man. And it's just all...
I know. I feel your frustration coming through the screen there. I think we know that this is a disappointing season. It's like first world problems for a team like Leicester when you hear all that. And it's easy for us to sit here and go, yeah, we get it right most of the time, etc. But it is a case of be careful what you wish for, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just
yeah. Oh, it is. But sorry, I was putting that to Lou. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was in my own little word then. Yeah, it is. And, when I've heard a lot of Brendan out this season, careful what you wish for.
Yes. Yeah.
There is a lot of clubs in this league that would slap the hand off to get Brandon Rodgers.
Yeah.
And, we're not doing great this season, but there is reasons for that.
Yeah.
So, 2 top 5 finishes quite clearly isn't good enough for little old Leicester anymore. It's crazy.
This is I know what you mean. But I mean, Everton, they only won 2 games away all season, and that was probably what has sort of been their Achilles heel. Unfortunately, we know the second one of those was when they came to Leicester. I mean, it was written in the stars, wasn't it, Lou? It was bound to happen.
Yeah, it was for me.
Yes, yeah. Mike, I mean, going back to Benitez, I think we're all going to agree that it's been a disappointing season for Everton, definitely. Right. Yeah. But Benitez, I mean, if he'd kept, let's say, got Everton sort of taken them over from 10th and kept them in, say, got them into 6th or 7th, the fact that he was ex-Liverpool manager surely would then be forgotten.
I'd still disagree. That there would still be some proper sort of, I don't want to say diehard Everton fans, but there'll be some Everton fans that have such a strong feeling towards that opinion. They'd be like, I don't care. He's still a Liverpool, icon, really. I wouldn't say legend. He's a Liverpool icon. He won the Champions League with Liverpool. I don't want him managing us. And we saw some of the horrific, I wouldn't say horrific, because if it was the other way, and I'm sure you and New Chris would agree, sort of an icon going to your club from a rival, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be annoyed that he's sort of come there. And especially with the way the results were going, Everton were like, actually, is he coming here to sabotage us? Is he coming here to relegate us? But
the Liverpool fans didn't help either, did they, when they were calling, the Red Spy and all this kind of stuff? Like, that didn't help.
Yeah, Agent
Everton fans. Agent Rafa.
Yeah, we had plenty of that all season, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it was a disappointment, though. And I wouldn't say... Everton are a weird team because I always still see Everton as that team that managed to get Europa League that one year. I think James probably wishes they were back to that day. But I still see Everton in that Europa League. And I constantly say they'll finish 6th to 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, around that region. And I just didn't see this sort of drop off. But Chris, you nailed it on the head when you said it's a long time. It was a long time in coming. I think there's a lot of teams now that towards the Everton, the West Ham, the Wolves area, that if they start to drop off, you need to nip it in the bud straight away before it becomes a slope, because it's hard to get back up it.
It is. Leeds United, we talked about second season syndrome.
I want you to go down so bad.
This has got to be one of the biggest disappointments up there with Everton. Book it for sale, I believe. Again, they stayed up on the last day. They gave a bit of excitement to us neutrals, but I wasn't expecting. I mean, we'd seen it with Sheffield United the season before, but I don't know. I just couldn't see this happening.
Like I say, it's second season syndrome is a thing, and that's what's happened to Leeds. They had such a good season, and again, they don't have any divine right to be higher in the league just because of Leeds United. No. And I think some of the fans need to, remember that sometimes. But yes, it's a disappointing season, because to go from 9th to 17th has to be a disappointment. It has to be. But they've stayed up by the skin of the teeth. They should now maybe, again, push back up that league. But there's only so many places, we're saying this about so many teams, and they can't all finish up there. Someone has to finish in the bottom 3. Someone has to finish in that bottom half. And for me, once you take that dip, it's really hard then to get back up the league, because players don't want to play for you. You can't attract the same players. Your team then gets stale, and that's where you get on that kind of downward trend.
Yeah. James, I mean, Doug kind of sums it up here. 79 goals conceded, had more than 100 yellow and red cards. They had a really bad start to the season with those. They had some, big losses there, didn't they? And obviously it cost Bielsa the job in the end. But again, was it? They did it in plenty of time, so you could say it was the right time. But again, going for a manager with no experience in the Premier League to try and keep you safe.
Bringing in someone like that, Jesse Marsh, it was a gamble, especially in the position where they were in. But yeah, Bielsa going was no shock at all, because the problem I had with Leeds this season, they're just so predictable. They'll go bomb forward gung ho, but then the amount of goals, like Doug's just put down there, the amount of goals they're giving away.
Yeah,
it's definitely relegation level. The amount of goals they're giving away, and the amount of yellows and reds they've got. There's no discipline, and that's something Leeds have got to work on next season. And if you look at that prediction there, I had them about 11 for 12. I thought they would tail off a little bit, but I didn't think they'd be in a relegation fight. But
no,
they definitely need to improve next season, otherwise they will be gone.
Yeah. Mike, disappointing, I think we're all agreeing on here. I mean, they conceded 79 goals. Watford conceded 77, and Norwich only conceded 84, which was only like 5 more during the season. They could consider themselves lucky buggers to still be in this division.
Yeah, like Lou said, hurry up and get relegated, Leeds, because I just can't stand them for obvious reasons.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of good and bad, because I want them to go down, but now they're staying up. It's another 3-6 points for everyone. So it's actually not worked out too bad, because we beat them 5-1 at Old Trafford and 4-2 at their ground. So, and the goals are embarrassing. It's not biased. It's embarrassing how expansive they try to be, and then how open they are. They're like an apron. It's all at the front and nothing at the back. It's absolutely embarrassment. They brought in Jesse Marsh, who obviously was an embarrassment manager for RB Leipzig. And look, they were lucky to stay up. They were very lucky to stay up. I think Burnley, if Dan's not going to be watching this, I advise you not to, but Burnley got screwed over by a couple of refereeing decisions. The one at Tottenham with 2 or 3 games to go, the one against Aston Villa. You could arguably say if those go on the other way and Burnley get an extra couple of points, they stay up. It's with that defensive record, embarrassing. And look, they want to be called Dirty Leeds. Well, you are dirty with those disciplinary.
I think, they have sort of almost carried that on. I think with regards to the David said they're losing Bamford for most of the season. I don't think any team should be using the excuse, and I'm not saying, David, that you said it's using it as an excuse, but you can't, say, well, we lost one player. We've all lost one. We lost 30 players at some point during the season. You cannot use that as an excuse for nearly getting relegated.
Well, they've got Rafinha, who could be on his way to Barcelona, so they're like, well, you've lost Bamford. Rafinha's 10 to go.
And I also think, Mike, as well, on the point that you just...
Defense not letting all those goals either. Like, Bamford isn't going to stop them leaking 79 goals.
No, he was in the team when they were lost at the start of the season.
He's not going to score enough goals to make up for what's going on at the back, is he? So
no. I mean, it reminds me of the Tottenham under Ozzy Ardiles. We'll let in 5, we'll score 6. But I think as well, Mike, the point you were making there, which was if this had gone for Burnley, if that had gone for Burnley, if Burnley had just won more games,
understandable,
it would be up. It's the old Villa stayed up because of that one decision.
Yeah.
And I totally get what you're saying. I totally see where you're coming from. But I think you've got to think. Well, this is a 38-game season.
People doesn't like.
Exactly. Doug, as he says there, I think Leeds are going to struggle next season. Lou, we can't avoid it, I'm afraid, in alphabetical form, unless I actually do this and go, oh, look, let's go on to Liverpool.
I love that in bracket. That's beautiful, that is.
But, I mean, Leicester, I did the prediction for this, and I said 5th or 6th, because I don't think we've got enough to break into the top 4. as I think I've been doing a lot of reviews, and I've done like an ex-player one with Jerry Taggart of the season, Rob Tanner from The Athletic, who's a Leicester fan, was the journalist. I've done Craig as the fan, and I had Owen from BBC Radio Leicester on last night, and they all said, we have done well to finish fifth in the last two seasons and get European football, but we haven't got the spending power of the so-called, seven now with Newcastle getting taken over. And for us to do well, like in the, when we won the league, we do need other teams to fail. That said, injuries, and I don't want to blame injuries totally, but we did have a hell of a lot of injuries. Defence, we were buying players, and I know some people were saying like, Vestergaard's a bad, but they were coming into a defence that had no confidence, a goalkeeper that won't come off his line. 5th to 6th, I said. Last season it was 5th. But if you'd have given me 8th in a semi-final of a European trophy at the start of the season and the Community Shield, stroke English Super Cup, I wouldn't have said that was a bad season. But do you think it's you could call that season disappointing?
It's really hard because when I look at the league position, I look at it and think, well, no, 8th is not disappointing. It's a little worse than what we should be. 5th to 6th, I think is pretty fair based on the last few seasons.
Yeah.
Well, not miles away from that, so you can't really call it disappointing. However, what's disappointing for me is what could have been if we'd had a fit squad.
Yes. Yes.
If we can get 8th with the injuries we've had, imagine what we could have done had we had the fully fit squad. And
I think had it been a normal sort of season, we probably wouldn't have got that 8th position. It's just that everybody else was, every single team had, apart from the top two, had inconsistency.
It was the wrong season to get all the injuries because obviously we did have Europe as well, which again, I don't want to use that as an excuse because that's what we want. We want European football and we want to, be successful in Europe. But when you have all that amount of injuries, what you need to do is keep your players fit. And obviously, the more games you play, the more injuries you get and the tireder you get. So I don't think 8th, looking at the season, is disappointing. But if you just take it purely on position, then yeah, I think it's a tad disappointing because I think the squad's slightly better than that.
Yeah. And the thing is, James, we had a decent finish towards the end of the season. I think Brendan kind of knew, because he did talk about playing some kids. We never saw that materialise. I think he thought, we need to go and get, as many points as we can. And, we did have an easy finish. I mean, our last 4 games, we beat Norwich 3-0. We beat Watford 5-1. We drew with Chelsea, which was in fairness, a good result. We beat Southampton 4-1. But these were games that earlier in the season would have probably just about got a 1-0.
Yeah, overall, I think you've had a bit of I wouldn't say disappointing, but just a bit of an underwhelming season. I think injuries might have had an effect, but obviously the amount of European games you'd had, it's had some sort of effect as well. But the problem, mate, as we say, squad depth isn't too big. I think that's just the problem. You haven't got enough strength in depth. So summer's just important for you to recruit. And the fact you haven't got Europe next season, will that be an advantage? I think you guys should be okay next season. So, but like you said, if we offered you 8th in the European semi-final and all right, Community Shield, all right, it's not special, but a Community Shield win, you would have bitten our hands off for that. So
it's actually
a topsy-turvy season, but you finished on a decent note.
Yeah, English Super Cup. I'm gonna start a campaign to get this this competition named changed. But Mike, there's a lot of teams out there that would have taken what we had this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many teams have we mentioned that they're chasing Europe? They want to be chasing Europe. They feel like they're good enough to make Europe. Villa, Brighton. There's a few others as well. And obviously the top 6, 7, 8 that consistently finish in there. So to finish in the where you expect to be, because I know obviously when you won the league, there was a drop off and it's sort of gradually started to build back to consolidate in a top 10 finish. I don't think I'd ever see Leicester as a team to finish outside the top 10 now. I think you've managed to maintain that top 10 finish. Where you'll be in that top 10 is unknown to each season. But the amount, I know you, Chris, have said this to me before, you don't like talking about it, but because I'm a neutral, I'll say it. The amount of injuries and unstableness in that squad to finish 8th and to get to a European semi-final, I think, was it the quarter-final of the Carabao Cup as well, when you lost to Liverpool?
Yes, well, we lost to Liverpool. Yeah, we lost to Liverpool on that.
Quarter-final, European semi-final, and to finish only one place out of Europe in an awful season in the league with so many injuries, so many players. Obviously, there was that thing with Maddison as well, where he was out of the team for a bit, obviously with what went on. And the way Brendan, I know obviously a lot of people can have opinions after every game. It's what we do as fans. But overall, as a season, how Brendan has sort of commanded himself in press conferences and in the media and stuff, like, you know, directly involved about the injuries and stuff. He just seems very humble. He's like, well, injuries are what happens in football. That's what happens. It's a contact sport. And it's just refreshing to see that certain managers cry about injuries, but Brendan has been very much, well, it's what happens. And I wouldn't say overachieved, actually, but I'd say it's average.
Yeah.
It's not underwhelming. It's not overachieving. It's nowhere near disappointing.
I think we would say it was possibly sort of as expected sort of thing, you know, almost. And I just want to actually just show this because, like I say, people question me when they, you know, when I talk about the English Super Cup. But this is quite a big, you know, site on the web on the internet, transfermarket.co.uk. If you can see there, English Super Cup winner.
You've done.
Rest my case, Lou. You know, it's officially it's the English Super Cup. I mean, I don't know why everybody is thinking otherwise, but I don't think it was that disappointing of a season. Liverpool. Now, this is interesting. We did. Doug says we need to defend, improve defending from set pieces. And can I just say, Lou, I don't know if you saw, I was talking to Owen yesterday, like I say, from BBC Radio Leicester. I never knew this about Harry Maguire, but when we sold Harry Maguire, Man United were after him the season before, and he only had a season left on his contract. And rather than him go for a free, he actually signed a new contract to keep him at the club and make sure that we got some money for him, because we'd come in and say, you know, got him from Hull when they'd got relegated. And Owen thinks Tielemans might do that.
Well, I really hope not, because I don't want Yuri to go anywhere. I want him to stay exactly where he is and be in our midfield next season. However, if he is going to go, then yes, of course, you'd love him to sign, and then we get something for him, because for him to go on a free is just devastating. It's worse than when Kante went for 30 million or whatever he went for. Like, that was gutting, because he was obviously worth a lot more, but it was in his contract. Whereas this is just no contract at all. So,
we will. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool, Lou. Sounds like a song, that, doesn't it? Oh, my Liverpool, Lou. I mean, I don't know how you could say this could be a disappointing season, but you know, they finished second. They won 2 cups, so they basically got, you know, 3 trophies, but they didn't win the Premier League and they didn't win the Champions League. So could you say, in a way, you know, all this were on for a quadruple? Did it end up being a disappointing season for them?
No. I don't think they realistically, and again, it's difficult because Liverpool are going to feel like they should be winning the league. Like, that's the bread and butter. That's something that they've obviously done a lot. However, when you've got Man City in your way, you have to be thinking maybe that's not going to happen for you. So I don't think that's going to be a disappointment. Obviously, they would have loved to win it, but I don't think that's a disappointment.
No.
Champions League, they got to the final. Like again, they were in with a chance of winning it, and they've won 2 trophies. So I don't think that can be a disappointing season. The quadruple was only ever I only ever heard it from the press. I didn't hear any Liverpool players coming out and saying we're going for the quadruple. It was always very much we take every match as it comes, which it always is. That's what the players always say. But yeah, so I not getting a quadruple is disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, since when is not getting a quadruple disappointing? No one's ever done that. How can it be disappointing not to do something that no one has ever done?
Yes.
It's not the season they wanted. They would have wanted probably the Champions League or the league, but I just cannot call that disappointing. And whether that's just because I'm a Leicester fan and we never win anything, I can't call that disappointing.
You've won the Premier League the same amount of times as them, so they're meant to be amazing. So
I don't know if I dare ask this, James. This is a disappointing season for Liverpool. I'm going to go and hide under the desk. Hang on a second.
I did my best for you, Liverpool. I did my best for you.
Yeah. It's not. I won't say it's a disappointing season either. I mean, no one really expected them to win a quadruple, to be honest. I mean, who is going to do it? I can't see anyone doing it, to be honest. Man City side couldn't do it. The great Man United team side couldn't do it. Chelsea can't do it. Arsenal couldn't do it, and with their great teams. So the fact they won 2 cups, and the fact that they're the 2 cups that Klopp has never won before, they've actually won now. So there's a bit of there's something to cheer for. And all right, Champions League, they lost them today, but the title though, it was never really theirs to lose. It was more Man City's to lose, because City were like 14 points clear at one stage, and Liverpool just suddenly just caught up out of nowhere, and they were like one of the informed sides. So the fact they've competed for four trophies towards the end of the season, it's not that bad at all. And I struggle to see anyone doing that again.
Mike, I mean, Liverpool were in 3 finals.
Yeah.
They didn't score a goal from open play in 3 finals. I mean, that, again, you've got to say for a team like Liverpool, they kind of were lucky to get those 2 cups that they did.
Yeah, I was just laughing that they were talking about a quadruple and they had to do a bus parade for the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. That was quite funny to watch. But yeah, they were.
I'm surprised you remember what a bus tour is, Mike.
we don't do one for rubbish trophies like the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. We only do it for the big.
Okay.
But no, start of the season, I said what pretty much everyone else was saying. Man City just too good. One thing I will say, don't click this, any Liverpool fans, but I do think the Premier League owes a gratitude to Jurgen Klopp for making this not a Farmers League, because you take Klopp out of them being in a title race with Man City, and Man City win the league by 30 points for the last 5 years. So you take that out of it, and you're like, this is like James said at the top of the show, this is a French league or a Scottish league. If you take Klopp's Liverpool out of the league. I really do think that, because City probably would have won the league. There's no one. Basically, what I'm trying to say is there's no one keeping up with Man City for this period of time for 5 seasons. These two are just relentless.
Yeah, agree. And they made, like you say, they made it interesting for the rest of us when we all thought it was over. Doug, obviously being a Liverpool fan, said at least we can look forward to an English Super Cup. And what he means is he's actually looking forward coming to the King Power, because of the Ladies Euros, the final of the Ladies Euros is the day after they would be holding the Charity Shield at Wembley. So they're actually holding the Charity Shield at the King Power. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nice that we've been chosen for that, Lou, but I would have thought there'd have been bigger stadiums out there that they could have gone to.
Yeah, because I kind of think, well, why would you not go to Villa Park if you wanted it in the Midlands? It's obviously bigger. Like, why would you not do that? Or why would you not go take it up north? Go completely opposite end of the country and go Old Trafford or St James's Park. Anfield.
Fans, it's going to be a 95 to 5% Liverpool ticket allocation because Man City don't have any, so you can quite understand.
all I will say though, James is probably going to kill me for saying this, but you've got Liverpool fans and Man City fans coming down to Leicester. Hide your cars, people. If you're living in the vicinity of the stadium, hide your cars, or if you haven't got a garage or anything, at least take your hubcaps off.
Yeah, like say it's a kind of an honour for us because we've only ever had one international game, I think, played at our ground, which I don't believe was the KP at the time. I think we were still at, or it might actually.
It was at the KP. We it was the only. You've only had one senior game. I think it was Jamaica. That
so
came
to get,
and visited us.
the opener for the season, it'll be good, and it would obviously be good for the city to have people come and spend their money in the pubs and stuff.
The England games coming up are like in Middlesbrough as well, aren't they? I think I've seen that with England a lot now. They always have like a game at.
Well, they have got we are hosting. I think the
Women's Euros. Yeah, we're hosting the Women's Euros. So that's why the men are having to play their friendlies and their qualifiers elsewhere, so that the women can play at Wembley.
I mean, I've got to say, what does it say about Liverpool and Man City when they're turfed out of a stadium for women's football? It just shows how good women's football now is.
I think or pretty much near to select crowds in the women's Euros, which is good to see.
It is totally, and we will be covering that, won't we, Louise?
At times,
we are. Yeah, I think that's partly why we've got it, because we will sell out stadiums where a lot of other countries probably won't for a women's tournament.
No,
we will. So
I remember watching the.
Anyway, sorry, Doug. I'm going to have to. We're nearly at an hour and a half. We're still only at M here, so we're going to move on. Manchester City, Lou, predicted was first last season. They finished first. Haven't got a cup this season. No Champions League again.
It's disappointing. They need to win the Champions League with the squad they have, with the manager got, and the money they've spent. They should be winning the Champions League, and they should be winning it easy, and they're not. So that, yes, it's disappointing.
Could you say though? I mean, they got knocked out to Real Madrid, who, let's be honest with you, were relentless this season, weren't they, in the Champions League?
In all comps.
It's not just this season, though, is it?
No.
It's a compounding disappointment that they can't even get to the final of the Champions League. That's the first step. Let's get to the final. They're not even doing that. So to me, if you are, the number one team in England with, like I said, the squad that they have and the manager they have, there's just no excuses for them not winning it. And yes, Real Madrid, however relentless, they only won the final 1-0. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're not scoring shed loads of goals and, pinned on to win it. So, no, that's not an excuse for me. And if they are that far behind Madrid, they shouldn't be.
Yes.
With the money they spent, they shouldn't be. Yeah. So, yeah, disappointing season.
Hi, Helen. James, I think it's disappointing because of the, the standards that, not necessarily they're setting themselves, but with the money they're spending, and you're spending £1 billion on players, and, you could look at the same if you were talking about PSG in France. They've this should be winning that competition.
It should be. Yeah, that's the minimum benchmark for them. I mean, if they lost the title on that final day, it would have been a really disappointing season because they would have gone trophyless. But the Champions League last season for me, they got to the final, lost to Chelsea. That was their best chance, but they blew that. And I'm going to be bold about this. Them and PSG, I can't see them two winning it anytime soon. The Champions League, I just can't, because you can have all the money if you want, but you can't do it in the Champions League. You're never going to win it. And them two clubs have never won it before. So,
But Chelsea hadn't won it before Abramovich came. So that to me is not the point. It's the mentality of
of course, yes.
It's very, very much like this is how we play and not deviating. Well, you can't afford to do that in Europe. It costs some points in the Premier League, let alone in the Champions League.
I definitely agree with that, yeah.
Mike, I know obviously this is the wrong half of Manchester for you. But finishing first again. Is it right to say they've had a disappointing season?
Yeah, it's purely off the fact that they've not won the Champions League for one, and second actually, which I think is actually more. I think people are just overshadowing the lack of winning the Champions League, but the avenue I'm looking at, City are normally well known for doing well in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, and they've not picked up either of them this season. You've seen Man City as a domestic team. They won the domestic treble a couple of seasons ago. Not Champions League. They wish. Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. They won 3 of them. I think they even won the Community Shield that year when they were called the Formidables. So not winning the Champions League or any domestic cup is a disappointment. But how do you improve that? You sign a player who scored 9 goals in a game in Erling Haaland, and you sign a player who scored 6 in one game in Alvarez. I think they're winning the Champions League next season. I think you put them 2 into it. I think they'll win it. But disappointment, I could never imagine first being a disappointment, but it is.
It will be interesting. Like I said, they never won it when they had Aguero, but we will see. Time will tell. Mike, I'm going to stick with you. Again, I know you were probably wishing that this wasn't going to happen.
Back in season, Chris.
And I want to click onto the next one, but I so don't as well. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm just going to, I think I put it in the bin. Let me just check where it is, because at the start of the season, with the fans' prediction...
I want to know who you asked, and were they, okay?
Were they what, sorry?
I said I want to know what fan you asked at the start of the season and if they were okay or not.
Okay, it was Talk MU. He won't be sorry that I've said this because I've joked with him about it before. But I mean, we joked about at the start of the season, Arsenal's the Arsenal fans' main achievement was to get Arteta out. This is what Talk said about Man United at the start of the season. We've got a good chance of winning the title. The double is achievable. Ollie should do it. I didn't say any more, do I? mean, this is a big D, and I mean, credit to you. You're still in Europe, so you could say you salvaged something from that. But you've got worse than replacing the manager and getting better.
One thing I will say is the way that you put what Talk said, we could win the league. I think anyone can who's in the sort of top 5, top 6 can win the league. So I think
you've got a good chance of winning the league.
Oh no, completely not then. So that was irrelevant. But like the signings that we made, Varane, Sancho, Varane makes the team better, Sancho makes the team better, and then obviously you bring in the greatest player of all time to sort of complete that. And one thing I will say is sacking Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the right thing. I think with Ollie, it was difficult to, like, when it was going wrong, it was like, well, he's a legend, and it was sort of, he was in basically a tug of war between the legend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the sort of manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and it was like, well, you can't say this because 99 dragging you that way, and then you felt like you were on the bloody waltzers at the fairground, right, just going back and forth. Are you allowed to say no? The bottom line is the wrong manager had the right players. This squad on paper is the second best team in the league. On paper, the second best team in the league. How it went so wrong was a joke. The owners, you said it, Chris, and look, you banter me with Man United, but this line is 100% correct. Man United getting an interim was wrong. The only reason being is they wrote the season off. They basically said, don't worry, this squad that we've got will get top 4, no matter who. We'll put a clown in charge. Well, some would say Ollie was that, but we'll put anyone in charge and they'll get top 4. Look at the squad. There's no way you won't get top 4 with that. Ralph comes in with, look, people will say his coach is CV. I don't give a crap about that. He came in to fill the gap to then go upstairs, and the club have absolutely just completely and utterly destroyed him because they said that's what you'll do. And then when he started talking out about the Glazers, saying I wanted a midfielder, they said no. I wanted to let Lingard go, they said no. And he just literally exactly what Doug said. He exposed not just the squad, the whole club. What's going wrong at that club? And the Glazers didn't like it. They're like, hang on a minute, someone's talking about us, get him gone. That's exactly what Ten Hag's going to do. He's going to go in there and think, what the bloody hell's going on here? And he'll speak out, and then he'll end up getting the sack. It's a circus. I don't blame the management or the players. I blame the board massively.
You've got to blame the board, Lou. I mean, on paper, as Mike said, we should be looking at Man United and we should be saying, look at the players they've got. Like Mike says, on paper, this should be a team that is going to be challenging for the league. But when they decide, well, I think the first mistake was to give Ollie the job permanently before he'd actually finished his contract as a temporary manager. Because he went in after Mourinho, if you like, you could say he got the changing room back. He was on that temporary contract. He hadn't even fulfilled that temporary contract, and they gave him a permanent contract, which was when it all then started to go wrong. So I think that was the first mistake. But this should be a club, and I know I have a lot of banter with Man United fans, but this is Man United. They shouldn't have to be getting, as we said, an interim manager in. That managers should be walking barefoot over broken glass to manage this team.
Yeah, and the board are the reason they're not. Let's be completely honest about it. Man United is still a huge club, and it's the board that are the reason they're not. However, the players go on and play the pitch. They have to have some sort of responsibility for what they're doing on the pitch.
Yeah. Because
otherwise, you're just saying, well, the players don't matter. As long as you've got a good board, it'll work. And that's not true. You have to have both. The Glazers have not been good for Manchester United, really, since they took over. They took over while Fergie was still there. And that's what kind of glazed over that first couple of seasons. And when he retired, it's never been right since. It's from top to bottom. And that's why I don't see any quick fixes. Because if you fix what's on the field, the board's still going to be the problem. And if they're not backing managers, if they're saying to managers you can't have what you feel you need to make this team what it needs to be, what's the point? What is the point?
Yeah.
Sixth is not where United should be. Yes, they've got European football. No, it's not what they want. And it's not what the owners should want.
Yeah. I agree.
The guy who took over Chelsea actually owns the LA Dodgers. And he basically just gave their managers exactly the amount of money they want. And they were the highest paying club side in the baseball league. And that's why they won it. That's why they won the World Series. And that's what he's going to try and do with Chelsea. I don't think it's going to quite work the same, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Why these people have, I think they have a basketball team. They know what it takes to run a successful team. Why are they not doing the same with United?
They're going to buy it.
Taking money out, they need to put money in.
The thing is about the Glazers, they're in talks to buy an Indian Cricket Premier League team as well. I'm like, why? It just doesn't make sense. But yeah.
No. I mean, James,
teams you've got first.
Exactly.
Yeah, and because you own a baseball club doesn't mean that you and look successful. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful running a English soccer club.
Soccer,
yeah. But James, I mean, you look at Man United, and I mean, Maguire's taken a lot of stick this season. A lot of it from Leicester fans, because of us laughing because of what they paid for it. And we said earlier about why we got 80 million for him with him signing that new contract. But I don't think a player becomes a bad player overnight. He goes off to England and he plays fine with England. Again, it's the decision of getting who they got in to run the club.
That's the thing, like nailed it on the head there. The players don't become bad overnight. It's just the whole foundations of Man United's completely wrong. I mean, you look back when Sir Alex Ferguson called it a day. How many managers had he had since he left? I mean, you got Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, and then Vanya for a short-term basis. But they've not been backed properly. and half the signings, and this is a similar problem in Everton as well. Half the signings they're making are not even just buying players that the manager doesn't want. It's just basically to sell shirts and merchandise and all that. It's unfortunately, this is where football's going at times. It's a money-making business, and that's what the Glazers are doing.
It's where incompetent teams are going. The competent teams, Liverpool and Man City, sign hungry players they want to develop at the club. This is where Man United are going, which hopefully comes to an end this year.
Well, yeah, good luck to Ten Hag next season.
Money out of a football club is to make it successful. That's the best way to make money out of a football club. It's to make it successful. The problem is that takes a lot of money in itself.
I know, Chris. Obviously, you don't want to go too long about this, but I've never got the fact that if the Glazers made Man United more successful, they would get more money. It just doesn't make any sense. Do they not realise that more success brings more sponsorship, money? They haven't got a bloody clue what they're doing.
What Lou said. But I do want to just stick with this, because there are two questions I want to ask you, Mike, and I hope Lou and James just bear with me for a second. First of all, Alex Ferguson, let's be honest with you, whatever you say, love him or hate him, you've got to respect what he did. And he's probably the best ever manager than, even up there, but better than Shankly for what he achieved. But when he left, he knew what he was doing, didn't he? He left Moyes a hot potato with that squad.
The worst thing about that is what he left Moyes with. That team probably could have got one more year of top and then build. I said at that point I wanted Jose Mourinho. At that point, Jose Mourinho was hot property at the time. 2013, he was in sort of the peak of his powers. I'd have taken him to build, because you see what Jose does. The first season, he would have said, right, okay, there's some players in here that still would have taken us on, but it was just the wrong job. You talk about people going into the wrong job at the wrong time. We were talking about Lampard earlier, potentially, and managers going into the wrong environment at the wrong time. It definitely happened with David Moyes, and only until last year he still had his contract at Man United going, because I think they gave him like a 7-year contract, I think.
Right. And last point, and then we'll move on to Newcastle. Conte going, and we'll obviously come to Tottenham later, but Conte going into Tottenham when he did, I think was probably the making of Tottenham, because he's gone into Tottenham. They needed him more than he needed Tottenham.
Yeah.
And he can go in and he can say, look, this is what I want, and I do blah, blah, blah. Whether that happens or not is another matter. Is Den Hag the man that can go into Manchester United and stand up to the Glazers?
Yes. The reason I'll say yes, a lot of people will say, Ajax is a fantastically run football club at Ajax. Edwin van der Sar, what's his name, Overmars, the whole sort of connection between the board and the fans are like best mates. You know, the fans know exactly what the board are saying. It's a well sort of knitted football club at Ajax, and I think Ten Hag will go in there and say, look, if you don't, he's probably had this conversation already, Chris. He's probably gone in there and said, give me what I want. You're not having. I'm not coming, because you like.
Fair enough, and let's see if it happens. Yeah. But Newcastle United, Lou, fans 16 to 17, which is probably what they thought at the start of the season. I mean, they've only actually improved by one position on last season. They did have a good run at the back end of last season, beating us 4-1. Bottom 3 before the takeover. They're now the richest club in the world, but they seem to be sensible with it. They're not making outlandish promises. They seem to have picked well with the manager. I think it's probably to say, you know, if they hadn't had the takeover, they would have well overachieved. But I think with the takeover and the January window, they're probably about where they would have expected.
I think this is an overachievement, because I think money can't buy you confidence, and it can't buy you the steel you have to get to get yourself out of a relegation battle. So I think this is a major overachievement, and I think Eddie Howe has done an amazing job since he got the Newcastle job. The money, obviously, they spent in January helped, can't be denied. But again, it doesn't guarantee you anything. You have to spend it wisely, as we've just said.
Yeah.
And they have. The new owners aren't coming in and saying we're going to win the league next season. They're not, they seem pretty level-headed. The uplifting just morale within the fans just by getting rid of Ashley. Like, I don't think it mattered who took over. They would have been happy just getting rid of Ashley. So the whole club is different. The whole atmosphere there is different. People are excited to go and see Newcastle again because they've got hope that, the club is going to go places and is going to, be getting into Europe, winning, competing for things, which is all they want.
Yeah.
They don't ask for that much up there. They just ask for a team that's, they can be proud of. And that's what we all want as fans.
James, sorry, Matt, I'll come to you afterwards. James, money can't buy you success. Money can't buy you confidence. Lou is quite right. But money can get you the right manager. And it looks like that's what they've done.
No, they've done well, considering how absolutely god awful they were at the start of the season. And even though that was a different manager and a different owners at the time. But no, I think 11th was a really good, strong end to the season. What Newcastle need to do now, and I'm pretty sure they will do, is obviously they'll have a plan going forward. They'll spend the money wisely. They can't afford to do what my club did because we're an example of how not to spend money. So this is what Newcastle just got to do. So, and I'm happy for the Newcastle fans because they have suffered a lot with Mike Ashley, and there's such a passionate fan base. Like Lou said, they don't expect anything. They just want to be proud of their team. We all want to be proud of our clubs because we love them at the end of the day. So it's a case of next season. How are they doing the summer, and how will Eddie Howe get them playing?
Yeah, definitely. Mike, sorry, you were going to say?
I was just about to say that they've completely and utterly changed like I said about Brentford. Erickson came in, made a switch. Owners come in, made a switch. This club is going places. Grimares has come in and is basically said to Newcastle, I don't care what offers come in, I'm going to be a Newcastle legend here. And to hear those words from, a Brazilian has no links to Newcastle whatsoever. Eddie Howe is a fantastic coach. He's got the best out of Golinton. And he's just changed the way Newcastle are. And like James said, it's going to be a slow progression. It's like, right, next season it'll be, can we get to the top, break into the top 10? Then can we get into the top 8, top 6?
They are sensible, the owners. They are taking it one step, let's say, at a time.
No point whatsoever.
Yeah. And we know who's coming up next. Norwich City, basically, I'm just going to leave them because of the shit. So moving on. They're where they deserve to be. I'm sorry. I'm not wasting my breath talking about a club that come up with no ambition whatsoever and go straight back down again. Southampton, Lou, fans predicted 11th to 15th. Last season they were 15th. This season they were 15th. At least they didn't get a 9-0 this season, which is the first one for in 3 seasons they haven't. But I mean, they're just there, aren't they, Southampton? They always flatter to deceive at the start of the season, and then quicker than a bride knickers on a wedding night, they drop down.
That's right, yeah. And again, we've talked about it many times on the show, but at the end of the day, they're in the Premier League. Like, for their size, for their, what they spend, again, their whole success is built on their academy. And if they could just keep half of the players they've let go, they would have been in a much, much stronger position. But they can't afford to do that, And I would rather them do what they're doing and finish 15th than try and keep those players and end up going bust. And there being no Southampton Football Club. So yeah, exactly where they expected to be. Just an average season and pretty good because they've not had to worry about relegation. So. Yeah. That's something that they've not had to worry about this time around.
New owners, James. Same. It would be interesting to see if they change that. The philosophy of selling. I mean, we've been there as Leicester for many years, having to sell to survive. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, they're just they always promise so much and deliver nothing.
Okay. It must be frustrating for if you're to be a Southampton fan for over the years, with the amount of players they had to sell to the for massive amount of money. Especially most of them have ended up going to Liverpool, like Lallana, Van Dijk, Ricky Lambert, and all them. So I thought they would struggle this season, Southampton, because I mean they're very unpredictable. They go through phase where, I mean, it's like most mid-table clubs. They either go on a 4 or 5 game unbeaten run, and then they'll just go a win, no wins in 5 or 6. So I think they're more or less where we expect them to be. And I think I think they've got a good manager in Hassan, who I think they just got to recruit properly. I think that's the thing. It's not just losing players; it's who they're bringing in. They're not bringing in great players, are they? I mean, I know it's tough to bring in brilliant players, but I agree with David Doug. I think if Southampton struggle, I think Hassan might not last the season. And that's not saying he's a bad manager. It's just I think Southampton will struggle.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I just everybody says he's too good for that club. Do you think he's going to get to the point where he thinks I'm better than this?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that they didn't finish too high after they beat us 8-0 in the Carabao Cup this season. So I'm a bit glad that they didn't finish too high. I
think that's Newport, not Man United.
I don't get well in cups. But no, back to Southampton. It's difficult when you've got a team of not underachievers, but there's a couple in there that glimmer with a bit of hope. James Ward-Prowse being one of them. Oriol Romeo, I think, is a fantastic midfielder. There's the problem that they got Broha this season as well. You get 2 or 3 in a team that could go way higher. I think there's a few, like I said, those 3 that I mentioned there, probably Livramento at right back as well. Those are probably, top 6 players that are realistic, top 6 or 7. And Southampton and not pushing on there. In terms of the season, no disappointment. And in terms of Ralph, I agree with Doug. I could see him potentially jumping ship because he may think he can't take them any further.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. And yeah, like you say, it's probably what everybody was expecting. As they flattered to deceive. And again, I thought, maybe 7th from Europe for them. But but not to be. Dan has joined us. I hope you are well, sir. I know he's been out tonight. He's probably drunk and still drowning his sorrows. We all feel your pain, mate. We've all been there, except James, of course. Hasn't yet been relegated. But Tottenham, I mentioned them earlier, Lou. What a joke they were at the start of the season. I mean, it was like, was it manager 9, 8, 10th? What they ended up getting, and it wasn't who they wanted. And they had to go almost cap in hand, I think, to Conte. But what a signing he's been. For me, they have probably, I think, overachieved looking at where they probably were had they stuck with Nuno.
It's really difficult to say because, again, Nuno hadn't had a great amount of time to kind of work with the squad and whatever. But in Conte, you've got a world-class manager, and that's what he is. There is plenty of teams all over the world that want him, would take him as their manager. You're talking huge clubs. So, yeah, I think that was a great, signing for Tottenham. I think it's a really good season. I don't think there's any disappointment about finishing 4th.
No.
This is nailed on, definitely. Obviously, finishing 4th above Arsenal makes it even better for them.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have got a manager who has got European experience, who is, I think, going to be good. And actually, I think there's a really good chance that Tottenham could go quite far in the Champions League next year. Because, he knows what. It's very like Mourinho. He knows how to play in Europe. He's done it enough, and he's going to have those skills that when things aren't going the way you want them to do, right, I'm going to make this change. This is where it's going wrong, and actually to be able to see that. So, yeah, I think Tottenham are pretty good under Conte. My worry is when he leaves, and he will leave because eventually Levy won't back him, and then he'll throw his dummy out the pram and leave. Yeah. So, eventually that will happen. I have no doubt in my mind that will happen, but... this season, obviously, very, very good, and I see that happening.
I think, James, you gave that to any Spurs fan at the start of the season that have not only bitten your hand off, probably your whole arm, to be honest with you. He is the manager that can, I think, probably not necessarily win it for them, because it's going to take a few years for anybody, so we've said, to catch the top two. But do you know what? I think they've done well this season.
Considering the start they had under Nuno, they definitely have. And Conte, I mean, he's a top manager. You can't disregard him. I mean, I was shocked when he got the job, to be honest, because you know how Tottenham operate under Daniel Levy. They don't back the managers enough. I mean, they had Mourinho and then Pochettino. It's just, but the fact he's got them fourth, there's no excuses. They've got to back him. So if they're backing properly, and if they can go further in Europe and then maybe keep gradually building to get better, then he might bring some success. He might end up bringing success to Tottenham. So they just got to back him. That's all they got to do next season. So, and obviously tempt the likes of Harry Kane to stay another year. And I think Kane will probably stay, because if someone came in with the money, Kane would have gone by now. But I think Tottenham will be fine if they can back Conte.
Yeah, and Mike, sorry, I was distracted. Doug said there's some good news for Leicester fans. I'm trying to find, who have we signed? And it's Bergwijn leaving Spurs. Yes, thank you for that, Doug. Yeah, you don't have to come back. Reminded me about that. You'd have taken Conte, wouldn't you?
I mean, yeah, absolutely, in a heartbeat. Under Nuno, they were an embarrassment and a joke. They really were. Let's not beat around the bush. They were an absolute joke under Nuno, and it was the wrong appointment, the completely wrong appointment for Tottenham. They bring in, for me, the third best manager in the league. Well, I don't think anyone will have any sort of qualms about that. I think he's world class. And the signings in January, we talk about how much January signings can change a whole, sort of different outlook on a season. He brings in Bentancur and Kulusevski from Juventus, and it completely changes them alongside Son, Harry Kane, the team, and Romero at the back as well. The team is starting to look like a team that can challenge, and they've already signed Ivan Perisic for next season as well. So you're going to get back big time Antonio Conte this year. Like James said, you cannot finish fourth and then not get backed. He's going to have 150 million to spend, I think. I think Levy's going to throw money at it, thinking if we buy players around Harry Kane and Son, they'll stay.
Indeed. And to be honest with you, I think if he doesn't get back, he'll walk. I don't think he's about that. He will just go. Another club that was just shit, we're not going to talk about them because they finished where they deserved to, and they finished where everybody expected them to. And that's Watford. Goodbye, go down, don't come back again. I mean, Doug said it earlier, and I'm just trying to find it. I did put it up, but I can't find it. He said, commiserations at going down, but congratulations at coming back up next season. I hope they don't. We touched on it earlier, Lou. West Ham. I'm predicted 7th to 10th. Last season there was 6th. They finished 7th. Again, though, they got a Europa Conference semi-final. A good season for them. I expected them to drop back down to be fighting relegation, but they proved me wrong again. Proving maybe Moyes was the manager that Man United should have kept.
No, moving on.
West Ham I have a soft spot for West Ham, and I don't even really know why, because I've got no reason to have a soft spot for West Ham, but I do have. And I think, again, can't be disappointed with this season. Yeah, okay, it's a one-place drop from last season. Yeah, I just think, again, can't be disappointed. Moyes has done a really good job. He's got them playing some really good football, and obviously trying to get that European trophy like we were. And yeah, just a good season. I don't see any disappointment here.
No. And James, so the worry is, who they're going to lose, isn't it?
It depends if they keep all their main men. Declan Rice, I mean, it depends how much. I mean, they're saying 100 million for him, which I don't think he's not worth that, but that's where the market is now. It's who they can bring in. I think they can attract decent players, and especially up front is where they're lacking, and they haven't got huge squad depth. But now this season they've had a great season, and obviously we had David Moyes for 11 years. He's doing a similar job at West Ham, what he did with us, and in fact he got them to a European semi-final. Unbelievable. So I'm fair play to them. They've had a great season again.
I mean, I joke there, Mike, about Moyes, but they can't be disappointed with their season at all.
No, they've got, for me, this is called a debate show for a reason. They've got one of the best English players in the league this season in Jared Bowen. Oh my goodness gracious me! What an absolute talent they have. Everyone's talking about they could be losing Rice. Obviously, Rice is a fantastic footballer. Don't get me wrong. If they were to lose Jared Bowen, that takes away 15 goals and probably 15 assists from them this season. He has not dragged them to Conference League, because at times they've looked a bit sloppy and like they seem to drop their heads in games. They went 2-0 up against Man City. Heads dropped 2-2. I know obviously a draw against Man City is still a good result, but from a winning position, and the heads just dropped slightly, and obviously Bowen scored 2 goals that day. It's a fantastic squad. It's not like one massive name and then 10 awful players. It's a few, very, very good footballers, and then 6 or 7 workhorses. And then, most of their team are players that, just work hard for each other and they fight for each other. And that's what David Moyes had at Everton. He had it at Preston for that short spell. He's never had the flair as often. It's always been, we will fight for each other. We will put our bodies on the line for each other. We care for each other. And we won't leave anything on the pitch. And to get to a European semi-final, just like yourselves, and finish pretty much one place off the end of the season.
We are there. We have finally got to the last club. Thank you, Lou, James, and Mike for sticking with it. Fan prediction for Wolves was 11th to 15th. Last finished season it was 13th. Lou started the season with a new manager, and I was surprised because I thought Nuno was a good fit there. With the players he'd got in and what have you. But it looks like things are going on, behind the scenes. But they brought a new manager in. They went from Nuno to Bruno, and he's not done a bad job for them, has he?
No, again, no disappointment in this season, I don't think. They're about where the fans thought they would be, and obviously they've got a bit better than last season. So again, there's progression there. Yeah, spot on, really. And again, like, they're one of those teams that could push for those European places. Given just a bit of maybe of luck and maybe a few more players, again, not got the depth of the squad. Maybe that's an issue. And I think that's an issue for a lot of teams in the league is, that first team, yes, can go and win a game on its day, but then when you get the injuries and the suspensions, that's when you struggle. And that's brought out with Leicester this season, and I'm sure it would with anybody with the amount of injuries we've had. But from Wolves' perspective, a great season again, no disappointment. And they'll just look to push on now, maybe to get those European places.
They were close to Europe again. James, one of those, that I've said for a few clubs, may just have nicked that 7th place. They fell away, but like Lou said, probably as expected this season. I mean, I actually had them down, for me, probably better than expected, because I thought they'd be in a bit of a relegation fight, having got rid of Nuno.
I think a few people would, because it was such a gamble to bring in someone. I'm not going to lie, I'd never heard of this, Bruno Lage, but he comes in, and to be fair, he's done a great job, considering the good work Nuno did there originally. But they were in contention for Europe for a long period, but the wheels did fall off a little bit. But overall, more or less where we expect them to be. So they just got to go see what they do in the summer, and then just got to go again next season. That's all they can do, really. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yes. And Mike, final word on the Premier League teams. Again, pretty much, neither good nor bad for them, was it?
Yeah, when they brought in Bruno Lage, I think many people were worrying. I just said I think they'll still be in the 7th to 10th category. I didn't see any drastic relegation sort of worry for them. I think actually one thing that changed them is obviously selling Patricio and bringing in Jose Sa. I think Jose Sa has completely changed Wolves the way they approach a game. They're no longer, because Patricio was not really good with his feet, but an unbelievable shot stopper. Jose Sa wants the ball at his feet. He wants to be sort of a 5th centre back, if you like, or a 4th centre back, if you like. But yeah, like I said, neither disappointment or delirium. They're not running around Wolverhampton with that season that they've had. It's just like, go again next year. We fight again.
Yeah, we do, guys. We'll talk to you in a second, Mike. But guys, thank you so much. I didn't think it was going to be that long, but then again, it's a debate show, and we had to debate. And please forgive me if I did rush a couple of you along at some points during the game. Lou, thanks so much for joining us. We've got the Euro ladies to look forward to.
Yes, I'll send you the fixture list.
Please, if you've got it, yes, if it's yeah, and we'll have a chat and get something arranged.
I think it's the 8th, so not long to go.
No, 8th of June. Oh, well,
no, July.
Enough. Oh, July. I thought it was July. And then when you said not so long, I thought it can't be June, can it?
It's next month.
I'm just going to have to go and change my underwear now. Yes. But yeah, we'll get those sorted. Luke, thank you very much. All the best. And I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
No worries.
Cheers. Bye-bye. And James, again, finally a face to the name and a voice to the name as well. Thank you so much for coming on. Good luck next season. I have a feeling you might need it, I'm afraid, mate.
I think we all need it. I mean, I said to my dad, the season tickets we're going to get, they should come with a free pacemaker. My heart went after the Crystal Palace game, but hopefully it's much less stressful next season, hopefully.
Well, all the best for next season, except obviously when you play Leicester. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks, Chris.
To have you on. Hopefully, it wasn't too bad for your first show, but all the best. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
Cheers. Mike, I know you wanted to sort of touch on your other team. I know you've got another show coming up. So if you've got time, we can talk again about the mighty Newport County. Finished 11th in League Two. Won 19, lost 15, plus 9 goal difference, 69 points. In your last 5, you only won 1. You lost 4 of your last 5. At one point, we were talking playoffs, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, at one point we were talking automatics. We were with 7 games to go. We were second in the league. If we would have won just 4 games out of the last 7, we would have been minimum playoffs. Could have even been automatics, and we had 3 home games in a row and lost all 3 of them. So League Two is a slog. You know it yourself, Chris. From Leicester being in League One, it's a slog. It's not. You can't play fancy football.
I don't know. It was quite easy for us. We came out of it straight after 1 season.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Sorry. I'd had to get that. You've been digging up about you beating us in the cup. I had to get you back with that one. But yeah, it is. We know it's hard down there. You know, you haven't got the pictures that you got in the Premier League. That's not being disrespectful.
Oh, no.
That's just being a fact, and the fact that the clubs haven't got the money to spend on it. You play more games. I mean, there's what?
8 more, 46.
Yeah, there's 24 teams in that division. And I don't think you're ever in trouble of going down. But what went wrong?
Michael Flynn obviously started the season and just it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work, because obviously he kept us up in 2017 and just he's a Newport legend, and then it just all fell apart at the start of the season. Got James Rowbury in, who I'm still not fussed on, even though a few of my mates are saying, come on, he's building something. I'm still not fussed on him at the moment, even though it's been like 7-8 months. Yeah. But I think it was just the home performances. Normally we at home, we're sort of, it's a fortress. And this season it was like everyone came here just thinking they could win. And when Telford's goals dried up, it all started to go wrong from there. It it was the home form that absolutely killed us. On the road, we were good. We went to Swindon, won there. Went to Port Vale, won there. Went to Exeter, drew there. Went to Bristol Rovers, won there. Mansfield, we only lost. So away from home, we were actually probably one of the best teams in the league, I thought, at times. Yeah. Weirdly enough, normally you say home form is what will keep your season salvaged if your away form is bad. And it was the complete opposite for us this season. But hopefully we can build on that from that whole, well, I wouldn't say horrific, but dodgy end to the season, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, you're making already dipping in the transfer market. I know we had a joke earlier about the fact that you are becoming a Cardiff B team, but you've signed Cardiff striker Zimber on loan.
Yeah.
That Barla Evans is set to join Newport as well, and also another Cardiff youngster, Bowen.
Yeah,
I mean, if they play well, I'm sure there won't be, or will they, have a go at them because they're playing for Cardiff before you.
Well, the thing is with Jared Sam Bowen is actually cousin with Jared Bowen, funny enough, which is actually crazy. And Chanka Zimbo, we signed today, has scored goals for fun at under 23 level, and then I read more into it, and he scored goals for Northampton last season. I was like, actually, this could be a good signing here. He looks talented. So I'm just praying we're not signing that striker because we know Telford is leaving, because that I think that'll make me cry. I think.
Yeah, I mean the teams that have gone up, Forest Green Rovers. Well, we know what's happened with that club. I have a feeling they'll probably come straight back down. Exeter City and Bristol Rovers are the other two that have gone up. I don't think they've got a big history of ever staying up when they've got promoted. I don't know. I'm not sure who's coming down. What are your chances for next season?
I'm looking at next season as
it's early days. I know because
yeah. I'm looking at next season as to basically we've got to get. I know obviously people hate this. We should be there, but I think over the last 4 years we probably are one of the 7 best teams in that league. I think we've got to be looking at playoffs as a benchmark. If we don't make playoffs, it'll be 2 years out of it after being out of the last 3 seasons in the playoffs. So it'll be a drop off. It's going to depend on who we lose. I think we're all praying that Dom Telford just signs 1 extra year. I'll say between 5th and 7th. I think we'll finish.
So you're looking hopefully to playoff place.
Again, yeah.
And that leads me very nicely, saying playoff place, to a game that's happening on Sunday between Wales and Ukraine for the World Cup. All joking aside, that being an English fan, I obviously am going to want Ukraine, just as you would if we were playing Russia now. You'd be getting behind Russia to beat us. We've been there. We've had the banter. We've had the arguments. We've had the fallouts over this. But a little bit of me, obviously, for you, I want them to do well because obviously you're a mate and I want them to do well for you. And it's kind of, I suppose, if you do get to, because you're going to be in our group if you get through, so at least that's sort of 3 points for us. But are you going to the game?
No, this is something I'm annoyed about. I spoke to my dad about actually getting a ticket, and then when he decided it'd be a good idea to buy them, they were off sale. So no, I will be doing a watch along for it, I think. And if we do not qualify, that will be ended at full time. There is no way I'll be talking anymore. I won't even say it's full time. As soon as the final whistle goes, that stream's getting ended, because
so you are doing a watch along.
If I can hold the nerves, I'm not too sure yet. But
well, if you do, good luck with it. If you don't, pop on. You can pop in and out of mine if you want. I won't expect you to. Thing is, it's a qualifying for the World Cup.
That's what that word. I hate that even more. I don't mind people saying a playoff, but when they say a World Cup qualifier playoff, it hurts.
So the thing is, you're going to want to sit down and watch it, don't you? You don't necessarily want to be occupied. It's like I would never have done a watch along for the FA Cup or the Community Shield, because I just want to sit and enjoy the game. But by all means, if you're not doing your own, like I say, just pop on for 5, then pop off, then pop on for 5 again. You will be more than welcome, sir.
Yeah,
you're the only person that's been on tonight that's really got sort of YouTube channels and everything. So your details are in the description below. Just give a shout out where people can find you.
Yeah, so it's Mike Green on YouTube. I'm live in 45 minutes time for US Darts Masters watch along. Yes, I'm crazy. Yes, I'm stupid for doing it. I've been told by family members that that's what I am for doing it, but I thought, why not? I've got to be up early in the morning, so that ends about 4 or 5. Just won't sleep the whole time. Which,
it's fairness, though. You've got a big darts following, haven't you?
Yeah, and a lot of the darts following are actually American, so for them it'll be 6, 7 o'clock at night. But for me, I'll be trying to get skewers to keep my eyes open. Yeah, it is Green on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to Chris. I've got it right. I've got the right direction.
Yeah, you got the One Direction. You're a big One Direction fan, aren't you?
No, boy bands. No. But yeah, do subscribe to Chris and check my content out as well. That'll be much appreciated.
Brilliant. Yeah, mate. If you can stay on, because I've got a question for you afterwards. I'll keep it very quickly, but if you just stay on. But thanks very much, Mike. Like I say, descriptions are below, and if you like a bit of darts, he's the man for you, definitely. Thanks a lot, Mike.
And you. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, if you like your darts, I don't see the point in it. I know I say it every time. It's awful. It's the only dart stroke I know, apart from my nuns, and that's too long to do at the end of a 2.25 hour show. Didn't think it would go on that long, but hey, we covered all the shows. That's the thing. Thanks very much for watching. If you have been, and if you've been listening, well done for sticking with it. I'll tell you, on your favourite podcast platform. We will be back. I'm on Stephen's channel tomorrow at 8 o'clock for a season review. If it goes on as long as this, I'll be up all night with that one. And 4:30 on Sunday, Wales-Ukraine watch along. Good luck with that. Mike, I hope it goes well for you. Thanks to everybody that watched, chatted, joined in, and subscribed. All the best now. Take care. Good night.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
They think it's all over. It is now.